Little Zen.
Breath. Hey, Chris, how's it going today?
It's going good.
Welcome to Market Movers. This is a podcast to interview movers and shakers in, specific niches and industries, different verticals. Obviously, you being in the film industry and the production industry, I want to talk to you today about, your expertise, your current role, future predictions, everything that you currently just know, naturally, because this is your job, this is your life. So just want to get right into it. And
thank you so much for having me. Super grateful to be here.
Yeah,
sure. I actually brought you something, brought you a little gift.
I don't think I have one, bro.
You don't have to wear it now, but
that's tight. Hell yeah, thanks, bro. We'll wear it. That's cool, dude. I want to get to know you and your journey as a film producer, movie director, videographer, whatever you want to, title yourself.
Yeah, thanks, man. Definitely a filmmaker is the blanket term, and then, if you break it down into like director, editor, storyteller is also a fun one. Basically, I started doing skate videos at 13. Kind of taught myself Adobe Premiere Pro. Had a super small digital camera, one of those tape cameras as well. Essentially, I even taped a fisheye onto it at some point just to kind of keep pushing my boundaries. At around the age of 17, I got my first professional job. I left my regular movie theater job, and I got hired at a videography company to do weddings. So that's when I say is my professional career officially started. In college, I went to UC Riverside. I started doing music videos to kind of keep my skills sharp and to kind of keep pushing myself. And that was really cool. I got to network a lot. I got to meet a lot of awesome artists, which is also a part of one of my core values is to help highlight maybe the not so seen people. And so getting to work with a lot of independent artists in those ways, people that were trying to come up, people trying to put themselves out there, giving them the opportunity to have a cool music video, stuff like that was really exciting for me. After college, I was really fortunate enough to land this TV show gig as a shooter editor. Yeah, and the real quick funny story about that was I was just out of college looking for work. I was going through Craigslist, and the title said hair company needs videographer. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna be shooting hair tutorials or something, but I'll apply, right? Because I'm just trying to get out there, get my foot in the door. Turns out that the owner of this hair care company, pretty successful brand, he was trying to launch his own TV show. So even though it was I came in thinking it was going to be a hair company job, it turned out to be a traveling gig where it was a travel show. And I got to travel all over the U.S., visit historic landmarks and document it all, which was super cool. And then bring it back to our base in San Diego and edit that stuff up. So that was a really cool job and a really great experience for me, especially coming right out of college. I think I got really lucky there.
Nice. That is lucky.
Yeah.
It's hard to get your feet wet in the industry.
But what I'd like to say about that is you never know what the job could turn out to be. Like I said, I didn't apply for a TV show. I applied for a hair salon company, and then that just happened to be a door to something else. So I would say just keep knocking on doors in that sense,
Obviously, I know you personally, so I kind of know your story and where you come from. And I feel naturally a lot of doors have opened for you, and it just continues to open.
At the same time, I was happy to be working on the TV show, but I also wanted to keep doing more creative things. I wanted to keep networking. That's when Twitter was, kind of starting to get more popular. And I saw a friend of mine had introduced me to DJ Carnage's music. And I really fell in love with the music, with the mixes. It was a festival trap mix. And so I followed him on Twitter and saw that he was coming to San Diego. So I reached out to him and I was like, hey, I'm a camera guy. I'm a videographer. Let me shoot you when you come into town. Yeah. And, again, I think now it's really common for people to do that. But back then, I don't think there was a lot of people doing that. So I think I stood out in that sense. And I think he was also at the right time where he was needing some content. He needed someone to record his story. So he said, yeah, come shoot. And that was the beginning of a really good relationship. He eventually took me to EDC for his first time playing there, and it was my first time going as well. I made a short film, a recap video if you want, 13 minutes. It's on YouTube, State of Carnage, EDC 2013. And that went viral. That one blew up. It got like 500,000 views, and a lot of people saw it. So that was also another really big door that opened up at that point. It was super, super cool. That led to him introducing me to some of the people over at Insomniac Events, more particularly the people in the film department, the head of the film department. He said he loved my work. He said that what I did was technically illegal because they didn't allow people to just come in and shoot content like that. You have to get it, pre-permission. You need to get it pre-approved. But that it was so good that they decided just to leave it because it was done really well. And it was positive. It didn't make them look bad or anything like that. So that was really cool. And then again, I like networked my way in, and I was like, well, if it was so good, then, you should hire me, you should give me a job.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, I'll give you a job. And it was like right there and then we shook hands, and it was like, I guess I'm going to start working for Insomniac, which was also amazing. That turned into a full-time job. I was able to leave San Diego, move to LA, which was always a dream of mine. And I didn't want to come and do like the waiter thing. I said, I'll only go to LA if I have work for me there, if I'm able to like survive and support myself. So I did Insomniac Events for a while. That was super cool. After that, I started working with some creative agencies. And then the Wiz Khalifa thing happened, which had also been kind of set up a few years beforehand. When I was working with Carnage, I ran into Wiz's DJ at an airport. He happened to be standing right in front of me, getting on the same plane. We networked. I showed him the video that I made for Carnage. He really liked it.
Yeah.
We became friends. Eventually, later on, he wanted a place to stay in LA, so he came and lived with me. So we developed a really good friendship, And years later, when their team was looking for more help with editing, that's when I told Bonix, I was like, yo, put my name in the hat, And they saw my work and they liked it. And I got brought on as an editor originally, doing his day-to-days, editing his music videos. And then that led to me going on tour with him, becoming the cameraman, his official cameraman, doing all the content for his social media posts, which was a total dream come true for me. I had always wanted to do that. Secretly in the back of my head, that was like my dream job. And I know, there's a lot of talk of manifestation and stuff. I believe in it. I'm still experimenting with it and learning about it, but I do believe that really what's funny is like almost 10 years ago, I had set the intention. I was like, I want to work with Wiz Khalifa. He's such a cool artist. He's such an innovative artist. I don't know how it'll happen, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep working my ass off, even with these independent artists, with these small artists, with all these jobs. I'm going to keep building my skills up so that hopefully if one day Wiz Khalifa and his team look at me, I'll have something impressive to show, or I'll be at a good caliber level. That was my mindset.
It's like the idea of developing like a prototype, right? It's like you're going to show them what you're worth and like your capabilities, your expertise, and you're really just going to hone in on it and continue to grow that, and that momentum just comes naturally. And then look at manifestation, like you said.
Yeah.
So
I set the intention, and I just focused on myself, and I was like, I want to be really skilled. I want to be the best, right? It's okay to say that that's how I saw myself, as wanting to be the best. And then when the time came and they liked my work.
And it's hard to do that. It's hard to have that confidence, right? Because there are people out there that maybe quote unquote are the best, like filmmakers. Look at these directors. They're technically top tier.
Yeah. I think in life, there's always going to be someone better than you no matter what, right? If you're like a power lifter, there's always going to be someone stronger than you. There's always going to be someone with more money than you. There's always going to be someone taller than you. There's always going to be someone better looking than you, But I think you have to, in your own world, think that you're the best, or at least strive to be the best that you can be, right? So I'm not going to be like pretentious and be like, I'm the best filmmaker ever. But to me, I am as good as I can be, and I push myself to be the best that I can be, and I try to build my skills. Of course, there's better animators. Of course, there's better directors. Of course, but to me, I'm still pushing myself to be the best.
Good
Right?
philosophy to have. It's great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I got to have my work seen by millions of people. It was super, super cool. After that, that's when I incorporated and I created my own company, my Chris Cordova Cinema. And I started building my clients from that point on. I started working with creative agencies. I worked with IGN. I worked with, now one of my clients is Khalifa Kush. And, so forth, just kept networking. And I kept building up my clients. I'm happy to say that this year I directed my first big commercial for a big brand.
Oh, wow. What was it?
It's an Asus laptop.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to do that with a really cool artist named Teflon Sega. He's the one who brought me in. But again, I do a lot of editing work. I'm trying to branch off more into directing. And so for me to be able to direct that commercial was like pretty cool for me, pretty big milestone. I also just recently, I'm still in the process of editing a trailer for an official movie that's coming out. Yeah, I don't know if it's going to hit theaters here, but it will hit theaters overseas. It's got Mickey Rourke in it. And I know it's gonna be like on Redbox and shit. So
Redbox? You mean Netflix?
there's still Redboxes out there, dude. If you go to Stater Brothers, you'll find a Redbox. So that's cool. Another cool milestone, right? For me, just really proud of that. And I've had my work featured on like the Marvel Instagram page, on Disney, on Amazon. So, I'm very grateful for where I've come from, starting all the way at 13 videos.
Yeah. I was just going to ask you, like, what drew you to the world of film and video production? So you said skating, potentially.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Skating definitely had a huge influence on me. I especially think like with the editing, the skate videos that I saw were like really well edited to the music. Landing tricks on the beats and stuff, and I think that kind of got recorded in my brain, But also, my main inspiration for cinema was like, growing up as an only child, I watched a lot of TV, watched a lot of movies, in my spare time, in my solitude. But it was what really connected with me emotionally. Movies called to me, and so it was always a secret dream for me to work in film. I also love art. I pride myself on being an artist. I never got too deep into like drawing or painting or stuff like that, but I wanted to take the principles of art and being an artist and apply that into the film medium. So I had to make a choice, and I said, I want to be an artist, but I'm going to choose film to be my medium of art.
It's your canvas. Yeah. You have to be centered in like the LA scene. Now, is that true to this day, or how have you navigated the LA landscape to potentially, grow out of it, or just figure out, new connections or collaborations?
Yeah. That's a big question. It's a great question. I mean, LA was definitely a very prominent hotspot for filmmaking, and I think most people in LA are filmmakers, in one way or the other, whether they're colorists or cinematographers or production assistants or catering people. They all work in the industry. It's kind of where it's central and based out of. But I think things have changed because of the internet, and I've been grateful enough to kind of see that happen over the last 20 years with the rise of YouTube, with the rise of online platforms. Now I think it's there's a lot of also other bigger central hubs. I know like Georgia is a pretty big central hub when it comes to like filmmaking. So there's some places that are kind of like rising in the industry. I've heard like Mark Wahlberg wants to build a studio in Vegas or something. So I feel like they're trying to move people around.
So how do you feel, LA environment currently shapes or influences your production work and your role in the industry?
Yeah, luckily I'm fortunate enough not to be tied down so much geographically to LA. In the past, I have, had most of my work come from places in LA, and I had to go into like Burbank, for example, and work, Monday through Friday, editing stuff there. But I've been able to build my clients, and also a lot of people also post-COVID, et cetera, are like starting to work a lot more remotely, So most of my work now is done remotely. It's all kept online. And I think it's really important to keep in touch and network. Every once in a while, come back to LA and link up with the people that you work with. But luckily, most brands, like I said, they're being cost efficient, and a lot of people are comfortable just mailing you hard drives or like uploading footage online. And so LA, I came to LA and I was able to network and foster those relationships and those clients, but now I've been able to kind of take them outside of LA and continue that work, now that I'm kind of more established with these companies.
And I think, anyone watching this podcast, maybe wanting to be in the film industry now maybe doesn't have to set that goal where they have to totally change their location just to be within the industry. And I hope people are realizing that, because I've always worked remote and I've always had clients online and virtually. So, but me not really focusing on the filmmaking aspect of what I do, but just more of like the marketing side of things. I still think, being in a central location does have its benefits.
Right. Like if you're just trying to be an editor, you could probably get away with living wherever you want, right?
Yeah.
But if you're like, for you example, you're networking with clients, you go out to dinners, you have to have some in-person meetings and stuff. So it's like you said, it's kind of more important to be in a central hub where there's a lot of people and there's a lot of companies and stuff. But there's also a lot of opportunity to like not have to do that if you just want to kind of be an editor. If you're a colorist or whatever, right? You can kind of work from anywhere because of the internet, which is awesome, right? Because of the abilities.
Thank you so much to fast internet. Now I have gigabit at home, and it's like, dude, like I'll get 70 gigabytes of video content in like 10 minutes now.
It's a dream come true, dude. I was there when we were doing dial-up internet, right? And I was like 13 when dial-up was around, so I know I've seen it go from like it's impossible to upload large files online to now it just happens in the background while you're working on something and it's just like going. And it takes 10 minutes,
Or what about the old VHS conversions? That was always wild.
I honestly almost wanted to start a business like that because I kind of got into that for like a couple months. I was like transferring all my VHSs. And I'm like, I wonder if there's a business here.
There is a big business already. I think I've seen.
I feel like Costco does it. I don't know if they still do it.
Yeah. Well, that kind of leads into, I feel like your creative process and what you've done and challenges you faced in the past with production, but, share some insights into your creative process. How do you bring a story from concept to screen?
Yeah, of course. That's the fun, right? So for me personally, my process specifically is I'll usually start by writing my ideas down in a note. Usually on my phone, right? But I also have tons of like flashcards and stuff like that with ideas on them. Whenever inspiration hits, you want to try to capture it. Whenever you're out in your life and you see something that inspires you, right? That's the first thing, is to go ahead and capture that idea. Then I usually let those ideas kind of simmer for a little bit. It's kind of maybe like a filtering process of like, does this idea really stand out, or was I kind of just in the moment and I was inspired? To me, I think a good rule of thumb is like if the idea is constantly in your head and it keeps coming back and you keep getting excited about it, then I'm like, okay, maybe I'm onto something. I think that's a good idea, versus like, well, it sounded cool, but now that I think about it a week later or whatever, I'm like not so hyped on it anymore. Now it sounds kind of whatever. So I write my ideas down. I'll sit on them for a bit. And then that's when at that point, I usually do an outline. Pretty important for me in all my years of like learning how to write, reading books and stuff. I think the outline is key, so you know where the idea starts and you know where the idea ends. You set your intention of what's the point, what's the message you're trying to get across, right? What's the angle here? So we'll do the outline, and then from there I'll usually start to write a first draft on a script, or if depending on the project, I also like to start involving writers. At that point, I'll start bringing in writers that I know. Once I'm super solid on my idea though, because you don't want to like bring someone in and then you're not sure about what you want to do, right? You're kind of going to waste time and then they will lose a little bit of lack of confidence in you, right? Because they're like, he doesn't really know what he wants. So I usually try to get the idea solid first, before bringing people in or getting that first draft. And then we start pre-production, then you start, once you feel good about your script, or even if it's not final, but it's pretty close to final, we'll start pre-production. We'll start gathering the crew, the gear, the locations, actors, then you got to set a date. You got to put it down on the calendar, or otherwise it's just going to keep going and going. And then, then you just go ahead and shoot it, Nice. Yeah. And I wore this shirt specifically for all my editors and all that. This is a pretty cool shirt, but so it's Fix It in Pre, which means there's a lot of issues that filmmakers will have to solve once something's already been shot and stuff, and you will die at the editing screen, wasting all your time. When instead, if you would have just done the work in pre-production, if you would have thought the idea through, if you would have gone through all the maybe troubleshooted and any issues that might arise, you can prevent a lot of time later, a lot of time wasting later.
Being a filmmaker and storyteller and, having an audience of people, what would you tell them some challenges you face and like how to navigate them? Just like kind of learning from your mistakes.
For sure.
Because it's all about learning, right?
It is all about learning, and you're always learning, and I'm always still learning, and I'm always trying to get better. I don't think I'll ever be like, I feel like very confident where I'm at now, but there's still going to be things that I'm going to encounter in my future that I've never encountered before, especially with the projects I want to do. I'm always trying to push myself. So you're always going to be learning. For me, I think, first of all, money is kind of like the blood of the film production. Yes. You're going to, unfortunately to say, it's a very expensive industry and art to get into, especially when you start doing bigger projects. So you have to get comfortable with the idea that like money is going to be spent in these endeavors, right? Yeah. It costs money to hire a crew. It costs money to rent gear, to secure locations. And unless you have investors, which is very possible, but also very rare, you're going to have to pay for a lot of that stuff out of your own pocket, right? If you believe in yourself, if you're inspired, if you want to make a short film, where's that money going to come from, right? The way to battle that, though, is to learn to do as much as you can by yourself. So, like, for example, the fact that I'm my own editor, has given me a lot of freedom and creativity and ability to create as much as I want. Building a good network is also key. Doing favors for favors. I've done production assistant work. I've done boom operating. I've done whatever I can and had to do to network. And if people see that you're like reliable and you're willing to work, and you're willing to do whatever it takes, then eventually they're going to want to work with you as well, right? You're going to build a good rapport. So I think that's also very important to helping you save money later on down the road, right? Because when people want to work with you, they're more likely to help you out. They're more likely to give you a lower rate. They're more likely to do work for work exchange, which is really cool. And so, just by being a studious person and, being generous with your own time and your own skills, you'll be able to save yourself a lot of money later on when you're trying to put a team together, when you're trying to put a production together. The fact is you're either going to do it yourself or you're going to have to hire in some help, right? So the more you can do, whether it's on a big scale or it's just like a simple video, right? Even like people that make funny meme videos, like there's a little bit of editing required, right? And they probably do it themselves, so they're saving money, right? And that's also smart because they're able to create more stuff without having to like involve a bunch of people. And those are the ones that take off when they're doing like these simple videos, these funny memes. And then you see them, you see them progress too. You'll start to see them adding in more camera angles now, right? It's a little choppy, but it works, right? So for online, it's like the bar isn't that high. When you're trying to make like a movie or something, then like the expectations are higher, I think, right?
Do you feel like it's worth potentially investing into equipment as a person that wants to get into film?
I mean, I know I came from like a low income household, so I understand like not having a lot of money when you're starting. And you can, luckily, like most cell phones, most cameras, like the low budget cameras, the Rebel T3Is. I mean, it's very high quality. So again, back to like technology, just helping us out, all filmmakers in a sense. So I don't think you like need to go out and buy the most expensive camera. I think you could do it with just your phone. Again, the will has to be there. The desire has to be there. But back to the question of like how to overcome obstacles. I do think it's cool to invest in yourself and your gear. I've been building up my gear over the years, right? I was finally able to save up and like get my first Red camera. I have some lenses, I have some lights, I have microphones. So now when I want to produce something that's high quality, I don't have to go through like a rental house. I don't have to spend a bunch of money because over time I've been building up my equipment. And also like I want to, I want my company to be a production company. So I want to be able to produce things. So again, I do think it's good to invest and try to get there when you can, but you don't need it. And especially if you just have a burning desire to create, like you could start with the most minimal stuff.
Yeah. I really commend people that just start with the most minimal stuff, because that's where I started too, just making stuff on a little VHS, camcorder and stuff, shooting kind of how you started, with some skate videos and stuff. So I totally understand. If I had an iPhone when I was 13, I'd just be shooting stuff all day, man.
And there are content creators taking advantage of that out there, and those are the ones that get a lot of followers and stuff because they're just not being limited by what they don't have.
Yeah. I mean, it really brings up a good point about technology and how far we've come, and innovation within filmmaking and content production, and how do you kind of see that and kind of explore that with what you're working with currently?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I think it's super amazing. I think there's probably never been a better time to be a filmmaker. From how, like I said, how good the low budget cameras are, the integration of AI into editing software, the immense amount of platforms that are now available, from TikTok to Instagram, YouTube, of course. I think it's never been easier to make cinema. Also, Unreal Engine is having like a revolution and a rise where it's becoming a lot more accessible to people. And so people can now make 3D stuff pretty easy. They can make realistic looking stuff pretty easy. They can create their own worlds if they want to. They just take the time to develop the skill. And then back to like technology, like there's tons of videos on YouTube out there to help. So again, it's all about just having the will and the desire. People can tell stories like never before. This stuff wasn't around 20 years ago. It was really difficult to like create a short film, or it was really difficult to tell a story or to animate. And like now you can make a whole cartoon series on your iPad if you wanted to, right? You can get Procreate and you can just learn the brushes and just go to town, right? Like there's nothing stopping you. I think the only thing stopping you right now is you.
That's true. I totally agree with that. I mean, it's also just like that analysis paralysis. Like you tell yourself so much that, you should do it, you can do it. And you kind of, compete with yourself by watching other people on social media. And it kind of, some people, you create a block. So it's just like, how do you get rid of that block? But there's so many tools and resources now to help you. And like you said, AI is such a great bounce board now just to help you. It's like a multiple different team members. You can talk to it, prompt it, have it make you a storyboard, have you develop ideas. So I think it really is now the expert leveraging AI in a way where they can actually just be a whole studio if they wanted to. I think it could get to that point, but what do you think?
I agree. I love the fact that like Adobe Creative Cloud has started to take on with the artificial intelligence stuff, with the AI. It's adapted it into its workflows, right? So like transcriptions now, you can get your whole video can get transcribed for you, right? You don't have to go in there and type it word for word anymore. If you download a long clip and it's got a bunch of camera cuts in there, there's a thing called scene edit detection, right? So now it'll go through and make those cuts for you, so that you don't have to go in and make those cuts, and then you can adjust each shot, right? There's so much then, like Photoshop remove background is now just a click of a button, right? So this stuff would take you time, it would take you skill, it would delay your editing, right? It would take forever to do that stuff. With the AI, with Adobe and incorporating it into its workflow, I mean, again, it's a great time. You're saving time, which is ultimately saving money. And you don't get burned out as easy anymore, right? Because I think people get burned out when they're like, I have this idea, but to get it to be done requires so much work, so much skill, so much time. you get halfway and you're like, I'm over it, right? But if you can quickly or like remove the background and you can quickly replace it here, you can quickly add the subtitles, and it's like that keeps you going, right? It keeps you like excited. It keeps you more engaged. And so I'm all for it, man. I love the technology. I really believe in it, and I'm excited to see where it goes, you know?
Yeah. Cool. Well, Chris, going back to team building and, collaboration, I would just like to examine that importance in the industry of filmmaking, of like, having a team of collaborators or a collective of people that can help you enhance or execute on certain projects.
Yeah, I think networking is super essential. Obviously, the old saying is it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. I mean, I think that is a very good saying for keeping business coming in, right? The more people you know, say you meet somebody and they happen to own their own beer company or something like that, right? Then there's a potential for you to like, hey, do you guys need content, right? And nowadays, everybody needs content. So I think it's, again, back to being a great time to be a filmmaker. That should be the title of the show. It's a great time to be a filmmaker, right? Because there's just so much opportunity everywhere. But I do think networking and building a strong, solid team, even if you're not like hiring everybody 24/7, right? But I think having those networks is super, super essential. You can always be your own rogue filmmaker, and there are a lot of successful people out there doing their own things in bubbles, right? But there's also so much talent out there in the world nowadays, right? And with Instagram and, other social media platforms, we've never been so connected like ever before. So the ability to reach out to someone and say, hey, man, I love your art. Are you interested in collaborating? It's literally like the click of a button, right? Like everybody's on your phone already. So I think that like when you connect with other people, you're able to create more premium content that way. You're able to create a better product, right? They say like 2 heads is better than 1, right? So, of course, do what you want to do. And if you, like I said, you want to build in a bubble, you can, but it will take you more time. You'll have to learn more things. When there's people that are passionate about that thing that you're not so passionate about, that area, right? Like coloring or lighting or camera work, right? Maybe you just want to be directing like me, right? I've done a lot of camera work, but I'm not interested in being behind the camera anymore, right? I want to be directing. I want to be working with talent. So it's much more beneficial for me to reach out to people and to build that network.
Yeah, I think that's really gonna hit the nail on the head of like kind of market movers and what we're talking about as far as marketing and like the future of, what filmmaking can do for marketing. I think short form content is king. I think it is coming in and it's shifting the industries all around. And I think, social media now having this thing where you have to be a broadcaster almost. Like if you have your own channel, it should be a broadcast, right? And there should be consistency with the content creation. So just talking about like the current trends in the film industry and video production industry, how is that, transcending into social media and
Yeah, everything is changing. Even for me, I've had to adapt. I love editing like longer form stuff, but short form is the king right now. Anything after 2 minutes is considered long form now. 90 seconds seems to be the sweet spot. So also learning how to hook your audience in early is kind of a big trend. With scrolling, it's people's attention span is getting a lot shorter. So you have to learn how to hook them in early so you don't lose them, and ultimately you don't get your message across if people aren't watching your stuff, right? I would say whatever you do, have a strong, engaging start. And usually, from what I've learned in the industry, it's within the first 6 to 8 seconds you want to really catch that attention.
So how do you coach people that you create content for to write their own content or their scripts for those hooks? Or do you give them hooks or ideas? Like how do you conceptualize stuff like that?
I will always try to open my edits with something really cool, something really dynamic, right? I'm not going to open it with like a talking scene. I'm going to open it with like
because you're creative and the stuff that you're creating isn't necessarily like a influencer where you're like, hey, viral tip,
Right.
Yeah.
That's the journey I'm on right now personally, as I'm trying to build my own brand, my own personal brand. You see me doing some of the reacts videos and stuff like that. So I'm growing in that direction, and I am too. Also, like, what can I do up front to help people, kind of hook them in? But when it comes to like editing for marketing or like, the trailers that I do and stuff like that, I always like back to, just hit them hard in the first couple seconds, a cool explosion, a cool fight scene, a funny moment, whatever. And then you're more likely to hopefully keep them engaged.
Because of that influencer mindset on social media and people, I think, being more attracted to that, like giving their attention to those influencers, how does that affect and how do you predict what's going to happen with like major movie studios?
Yeah, there's a lot of change going on right now. I definitely see that. I think that the major studios are going to lose a lot more and more grip on the overall audiences. I think online is really where the action is at right now. There seems to be a divide right now. Let's say there's an old school and a new school, and the new school being the Gen Zs, for example, right? Old school is still like longer form. People still watch TV shows. People still watch Netflix. People still watch series, you know. But this new school is like these creators on TikTok and Instagram and Twitch, and they have these massive audiences, right? They have like thousands of people, millions of people watching, the hundreds of millions. So like if you add them all up, I mean, it's huge, right? And it's kind of putting the other people to shame, like what the late night TV shows are like. Who's watching that, right? But I think that's really awesome because I think there's a lot of potential to change the way that we watch and engage with cinema. I think that we're going to be seeing some really cool new experiences coming out. Things that we've never seen before. You know, I think that ultimately the face of cinema is going to be changing, and I'm definitely all for it. I love it, and I want to be right up in there.
It's been great to have you on here. I really appreciate you, coming down here from LA and, speaking to me here in San Diego. So it means a lot. But so I just want to conclude with a glimpse into your future. Like, what are you working on in a certain project?
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, I'm definitely working on building my personal brand as well as my production company, Chris Cordova Cinema. I think these days that it's really essential for you to have a personal relationship with an audience. I think that's what we're competing against, right? There could be talented artists, you could be a dope filmmaker, whatever, but you're competing with the people that are putting themselves out there personally, telling their stories, their personal lives. And those people have the eyeballs, right? Oh, and on top of that, they're also chefs. Oh, and on top of that, they like to sew something and they're selling a little side hustle. So I think if you want to be like a really engaging filmmaker artist, I think you have to, and it's very uncomfortable for a lot of artists to do that and to hear that. And I know a lot of dope painters, they're not comfortable putting themselves out there personally like that, right? I think it's very important to like make that breach over and at your own comfort or whatever. But I think, you have to build a connection with your audience outside of just your creative work. And I think there's a new type of filmmaker that's being called for, and I'm trying to answer that call.
Thanks, man. Hey, that was some great touch points right there. I really do feel like you got to be genuine and vulnerable now on social media.
Yeah, because people want to relate to humans, right? We want relatability, and ultimately it comes down to trust, right? It's going to be like, can I trust this person? Can I trust the company? Can I trust a brand? And do I align with them? And then it'll lead to support, right? Because once they see themselves in you, then they're going to want to back you up. They want to see you succeed. Rapping, for me, where I see myself going and what I'm trying to do, aside from the small stuff, I definitely feel like I'm done working as a videographer. I'm done. I'd like to be fully done working for other people. I don't want to be just a cameraman. I don't want to be just an editor. I think I've established what I've set out to do in those areas, which was ultimately say, hey, I'm a filmmaker from the streets, self-taught, who's been willing to grind and hustle to get to where he wants to be. For me, it's now about creating bigger ideas. I want to be directing original content. I want to be writing my own films, my own shows, whether it's for TV or for online. I'm interested in telling more original stories and also getting to a point where I can help other filmmakers, up-and-coming filmmakers, whether that be by producing or helping them create their own stories. The way I see my films going, I'd love them to be centered around love, faith, God, drugs, addiction, enlightenment, and darkness.
Thank you so much, Chris. It was great having you on the podcast today. Again, Market Movers, you're a mover, a shaker in the film industry, and it's a pleasure to have you on. And I hope that, the audience that I create here can watch you now and watch you grow. And I think that you are going to be, top tier talent that people are going to be looking at consistently. So thank you again, man. And if you want to go ahead and plug in your website and your socials just so people can start to follow you.
Yeah, I will always have chriscordova.com, so please go check that out if you want to hear my story, see all my stuff. On socials, I'm Real CCC, and that's Real REEL CCC. So yeah, please give me a follow, check me out, let me know what you think. Love to hear from you guys. Thank you so much, Vince. You're awesome. I love what you're doing, bro. I'm so proud of you. We've been working together for a long time. I've seen you. You know, we both were doing jobs together, and now you're running your own company and stuff, and creating your content. And you have clients and stuff. So I'm also super proud of you, and I'm very grateful that you asked me to be on here, man.
Man, thank you so much. All right,
Yeah.
thanks, guys. See you later.